Good morning, Keller Williams. Welcome to, I think, week number 7 or maybe week number 8. First of all, many of us know on this call and around the world what happened in Nova Scotia on the weekend. Our thoughts and prayers are with many people affected by this recent and tragic events in Nova Scotia. To our Keller Williams family, friends, and colleagues throughout Nova Scotia, our hearts are with you. I did make a call to my colleague in Nova Scotia yesterday, Jerry Murphy. Jerry knew many of the people that were gunned down, and there's plenty of heavy hearts in that province, no different than what we encountered a few years back. And our thoughts and prayers are with them, and I would imagine that most of Canada and the world is thinking about the people of Nova Scotia right now. On top of the tragedy, we still have the COVID-19 virus to deal with. So all those people that lives were taken, unfortunately, will probably have no funerals, no gatherings, and no closure to some degree, which is very unfortunate. But to give you an update on the COVID-19, Dr. Russell, Chief Medical Officer of Health, said patience and vigilance are still required to further slow the spread of this virus. Make no mistake, this pandemic is not over in this province or anywhere else in the world, said Russell. We must remain on our guard and keep doing what got us to this stage. That means continuing to stay home, in your home, as much as possible. Premier Blaine Higgs thanked New Brunswickers for their hard work and sacrifice in keeping the cases of COVID-19 at a minimum. Because you paid attention and put health and safety of your fellow New Brunswickers first, we have been able to slow the virus spread, said Higgs. We have been fortunate in New Brunswick, but we must not take this for granted. We must continue to follow the directives of public health. And I read this morning that if things continue the way they're going, there is a great possibility that things will start to reopen. But I think the caveat here is that it's going to be a process of reopening, but also a process of closing down if the virus starts to creep back up. So it's open and close if we have any reoccurrence of the virus. So the province of New Brunswick has fared extremely, extremely well in all of Canada in regards to the battle to flatten the curve of COVID-19. And if we look at the maps, we've had 118 total cases, 20 active, 98 recovered, and of the 5 that are in hospital, only 2 people are now in ICU. New Brunswick has fared very, very well, and I think it's because of the Public Health Department and the great stewardship of this government to jump on it very early, and that we are very thankful for. In the total number of tests performed, it's about 1.4% of the population have been tested, or 10,970 people. The Dr. Russell said that they're going to continue to do testing. They are now testing people that are first responders, front line workers, and and they're going to continue to test to make sure that there's no community spreading of this virus. Okay. The other thing I want to just talk about a little bit is the COVID-19 PDF forms that were sent to you, and I believe there's 5 sets of forms. The seller consent form is very easy. It's just that the seller consents that they've been asked the questions, and they're fine with allowing viewings, whether they be Keller Williams viewings or outside agency viewings, and it's fairly straightforward. The listing brokerage, that's Keller Williams, so if you're listing a property, you're going to declare to the seller that you've actually asked yourself these questions and that you agreed that you're not inflicted of any kind of or any reason why you shouldn't be listing the property. The cooperating broker, this form here seems to be given some brokerages some difficulty, and the reason why we've put these forms in place was not to worry about the cooperating brokers as much, was to worry about Keller Williams, both from an agent point of view, a company point of view, a buyer point of view, and a seller point of view. And we've covered all of the forms very individually, so to speak, so that we can make sure that we have the forms going forward that would be conducive of doing business under these particular times. Now, so you got the cooperating broker. That's if let's say Gardner Realty, for instance, in Fredericton was going to show, one of their agents is going to show, the cooperating broker will fill out the form, and the next form is the buyer or tenant consult form. We want to know who the buyer is. It's not because we want to go out there and see if we can scoop the buyer. We need to have a tracking system in place so that we can know that, number one, the agent that's representing the buyer has asked the buyer these questions. So there seems to be some confusion on number 12. We will provide our current contact information, including residential address, phone numbers, email address, and valid photo identification to my or our realtor prior to viewing the property, with the sole purpose that we may be notified if required. And the goal here is if required. So the fact here is that if Gardner was shown the place, the agent representing Gardner would have the buyer sign this, and that's all we would need, is that the buyer signed it. We don't need all of this information other than the fact that if something came up with that somebody got inflicted with COVID-19, we can go back and then they can trace back who that person is, where their address is, and do the remediation or the self-quarantine or whatever needs to be done. It's not that Keller Williams is looking for all that information. It says if required. So we're having some difficulty here with one company that does not want to sign the COVID-19 Keller Williams forms. They have their own form and they think that suffice. This is what the stance of the policy that we have. If somebody is showing a Keller Williams property, these forms should go out and be signed by them. If you're showing a Keller Williams property or somebody else's property, you too should fill out the Keller Williams forms and keep them and put them in the file and send them with a purchase and sale agreement so that we can keep them and put them in a file. Because there are some companies that do not have any forms whatsoever. They really don't care. We showed a couple of properties this weekend of other companies within Fredericton. We were never asked about COVID forms. We were never asked if we got a cough, a fever, or anything else. Here, go show the property. Now, The flattening of this curve has happened because a whole lot of people took interest to make sure that we beat this curve. And Keller Williams and our industry, because we're considered essential, must be very, very vigilant in helping through the process. Otherwise, we'd be like the province of Quebec, and we'd be considered a non-essential commodity, and we wouldn't be doing any real estate for the last 7 weeks. But therefore, because we are essential, we got to practice it in a very safe environment. And the third party form is very specific to an inspector or contractor, electrician, or whoever. So the forms, excuse me, the forms that you have and that we've designed for Keller Williams is to protect our people, whether they're buyers or whether they're sellers or whether they're our own agents. I would ask that you only fill out other people's forms if they provide it to you and you send them back. But I also would implore you to fill out our forms and put them in our files so that we have them for future reference if we have to go back and visit them. If there's any questions on those forms and any questions on what I just said, please contact me. The spirit of the forms is for protection, and I've taken the policy or the position that if the agent does not want to fill out the forms outside of this office, then that appointment or showing should be canceled. It shouldn't take place. If you decide as a realtor within Keller Williams to go ahead and do the showing without the forms getting signed, then you're on your own. If something comes back, it's not coming back to Keller Williams. It's coming back to you as an individual agent. And as long as we're clear on that, I've had none of our agents make any comments about the forms. Yes, they're very detailed. And yes, as I said way back when, they're like COVID on steroids, but we wanted to ensure that we covered all the basics of that form. And again, any questions on the forms, please reach out to me and we'll give you some clarity around those forms again. In regards to command, I believe that we're down to 18 agents and that need to be contacted. They'll be done today. 11 of those agents are in the Moncton area, so expect a call today either by myself or Scott to get this done. And for those that have signed up, thank you very much for helping in the process. We think this is a huge investment, particularly with this pandemic going on. And but we see the value in this, and we see the value in training going forward with technology in command. The training schedule. This is a training schedule that's been on the go for 7 weeks. Keller Williams is giving you training with a fire hose. You can opt in or out of some of the training. We're hoping that you're doing some. The ones that we particularly would like you to do is the 11:30 was Jill. This is the second round of going through the basics of command opportunities and referrals. And this is the second round, and I think he's in day 6 or 7 of the second round. The other thing that I got changed yesterday, teams only. Teams only was Jill and anyone that had a team, and that used to be at 5 o'clock on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So I asked Jill a question yesterday because we get a lot of our teams that have young families, and 5 o'clock is a little bit hectic trying to get supper and trying to get everything done. So Jill has moved the team only meeting till 2 o'clock Atlantic time. So if you have a team, you have an assistant, you should be on the 2 o'clock call. He changed it because of an ask by myself. So please ensure whether you're whatever part of the province you're in, if you have a team, have your assistant on the call along with yourself so that you can ask Jill any questions that you may have, and Jill will take you through some of the systems so you can be better prepared to start doing command at a higher level. The other thing is that I believe tomorrow there's the 12:30 to 2:30 session for Canada, and one of the panel speakers tomorrow, Charlotte Pierce, our very own, talking about virtual open houses. So I would ask that we support that event and certainly support Charlotte in that particular training. So on Friday, when I give you the update on COVID-19, we're also going to give you a bit of an analysis of the TAPS audit, of everything that David has done in regards to the interview, so we can see where our partners are in regards to the use of command, whether it's a little bit, whether it's none, in all of the areas in command, so that you can see where we are from a company point of view, and David can see where we are and where we need to go in relationship to the extra training. So we plan to give you that report on Friday, and we'll give you an update on anything else that arises between now and Friday. So it doesn't feel like it's getting any warmer. The sun's coming out, and there seems to be a lot more vehicles moving around in Fredericton since probably the weekend than I've seen in the last 6 or 7 weeks. I've talked to a few realtors around the province, and they're indicating that things are starting to move a little bit, and hopefully real estate will move as well. If you have any questions or concerns, you know that my phone is open, my text is open, and my email is certainly open to answer any questions that you may have. Other than that, thank you for joining in. Have a great week, and stay home and stay safe. Thank you.